Sometimes people will make a joke video about coming out to their friends or family and they'll get quite a lot of hate in the comments about that because it's quite a serious thing to put out on the internet and actually admit to yourself and your friends and family that you are actually gay. So to make a joke of it is obviously making a joke of the people that actually come out. Why is it though that people find it acceptable to make a joke about being adopted?
Hi guys, so today I'm with my mum and we're going to be doing an adoption prank on my brother.
And I'm going to tell him that he's no longer part of the Addams family and that he's adopted.
Today I'm going to be pranking my little sister Aisha, and I'm going to be telling her that she's adopted.
I certainly don't find it a laughing matter, and that there is my story. The funny thing with being adopted is when you actually tell someone you're adopted, they almost don't believe you. I made a video once a long time ago, and it was a facts video about me, and I said in the video, 5 facts in this are going to be false, so they're not even facts, but I said 5 things that are going to be false. Let me know what you think they are. And actually a remarkable amount of people said adopted. People didn't believe I'm adopted. I really am adopted, and that wasn't a lie, and I never obviously expanded on that, but it just baffles me as to the reaction you get, and I suppose it's not really spoken about much. And recently I saw a film called Instant Family, and it kind of really spoke to me, and it kind of hit me, and I'm not kind of an emotional kind of guy. A lot of people that know me probably know that I don't really show much emotion, but I was sat in the cinema and I was tearing up. I didn't cry completely, but I felt myself tearing up because whilst I was adopted at quite a young age, it still hit me quite hard about the whole process and the whole deal of it. The fact that you don't see your parents. I've never met my parents since I was 18 months old and I was taken into care. I've never met them in my life other than there. And obviously being that young, I don't remember them. I couldn't remember them at all, and as far as I know that my dad, my real dad, doesn't want anything to do with us. That's, as far as I know, that's kind of what I've been told by the siblings. No one has any contact with him. And making this video, looking out the window and kind of seeing the whole world almost, it kind of makes me wonder, should I try and attempt to contact her and see what she has to say, or am I better off leaving it? And it's so difficult because something that Roxy was saying to me just before making this video was, you know, if she died, then you've not even tried to understand what happened or anything. You've just kind of left it. But then equally, my argument is, do I want to bring all that up? Do I want to go through all that? Is it going to make things worse? Am I going to get any answers? I mean, really, I don't know, and I suppose no one does until I try. If I tried at all, I know other siblings of mine have made some contact in the past. It's not necessarily ended particularly well, but I suppose I can't necessarily take what they've done. I need to obviously try myself, if at all, and it is something I obviously think about a lot, and it's not an easy thing to do, but all of this here, this is a lot to do with when I was adopted and fostered and the whole kind of situation that's gone on, and actually there's not a lot of information about me, myself, and a lot of what I've got there is duplicates because it's all been kind of messed up, but basically we all had these life books and they came in these folders about that thick. And if I remember correctly, I had a Winnie the Pooh folder that it came in. I don't know why, I just did. And it was all in order, all of it, all perfect in order. And then me and my sister, I think we must have messed ours up because I got a lot of her stuff. And I don't know if she's got a lot of mine. I think there's one good one that my other sister's got. But even just reading it today, and I don't read it a lot, but even just reading it today, I learned so much that I didn't even know about. For example, my real dad was in the army, and I had no clue about that. Like, before everything kind of went to, badly, I can only assume that he was a pretty decent person before he had kids. I mean, being in the army, that takes balls. That takes a lot of balls to be in the army, no matter what part of the army you're in, what you're doing. Just to be in the army takes balls. In fact, when my parents got married, they moved abroad because he was still in the army, and he left the army shortly afterwards, and then my first sibling was born. But it's just, even just reading that, it's just remarkable how much I've learned. I'm just amazed I didn't know something that I would consider quite a big thing before, and I've really only just learnt that today. 18 months old then, I mean, it's pretty young, and obviously I didn't really have any clue what was going on, and I don't remember a lot of it, but I think it has affected me in life in certain aspects. But I try not to let it affect me negatively. If anything, I try to use it as a positive and think, well, I'm more than likely better off now than I would have been had we all been left in that situation. So I don't know the whole ins and outs of everything, and I certainly, I have to tread carefully when I ask people because obviously it's sensitive things, but obviously the social services were concerned enough about my parents with the children, given their eventually there were 9 of us. We didn't all live together all at one point, but there were 9 children that they had, and they were obviously concerned enough that we were then taken away from our parents, which is such a difficult thing, I think, for anyone to comprehend, the fact that a child is going away from their mum and their dad, but permanently. It's not like, oh, you're going on a holiday with your grandparents, you're going away to go and live with someone else. That's such a difficult thing, and it doesn't even bear thinking about for me. If anyone ever said to me, your children are going away, I'd break down. So, whatever you've done, I don't know how they dealt with it. And I suppose actually it's something that if I ever did get in contact with my parents, I would love to explore with them and try and understand how on earth they ever dealt with that, because I know from me, that would be the most difficult thing I've probably ever dealt with, and I hope that never happens. I try and be the best parent I can. And I know from what I've read and what I've understood before that they couldn't take care of us properly, basically, to put it simply, and they struggled, I think. And, being a parent's not easy, and I think being a parent to 9 children, granted not all at the same time, is very difficult. But they obviously did a lot of things that weren't right, and there was a lot of things where social tried to give them advice and they didn't listen. I think it was more, from what I've understood, more my sort of dad that didn't really listen and things. And it's difficult to read, but it's, I think, quite important to read and try and understand what's gone on and why it's happened. But I suppose really, I'll never know exactly why, but I can try and understand from the information that I do have available to me. So I suppose the nitty gritty of it really is that 18 months old I was taken into foster care with 2 people called Pat and Andy, and they had some other children as well, and I was taken in with Nikita, so we lived together for quite some time with Pat and Andy, and I didn't actually realise this, but they wanted to adopt us. They did want to take us in, but for some reason or another that didn't happen. And then my mum now, my adoptive mum, and my adoptive dad came along, and they fostered us as well, so we had to go into foster care with them. And then that was also with my other sibling, Georgina. March 1999 that we actually went and moved in with my adoptive parents, who weren't obviously my adoptive parents at the time, they were my foster parents. And then in June 2000 we actually got adopted. So one of the agreements actually with the adoption was that we had to see our brothers Jadon and Callum, who have obviously featured on this channel before, once a year. We had to go and see face-to-face contact with them once a year. At the very least, we had to do that as part of the agreement. The other agreement was we had to send letters to all our siblings, and I think my grandparents and parents, although from what I understand my dad stopped replying pretty quickly to all our letters, but I know that we kept in contact with our grandparents and the other siblings. But for some reason there was no face-to-face contact with them, and we didn't actually see them again for I think about 15 years or so. We met them a couple of years ago for like the first time in years, and it was so weird, but obviously we all get along really well now. But it's such a strange thing when you haven't seen your sibling for so long and then you meet them for the first time, because basically I didn't really know any of them, so for me it really was like meeting them for the first time, and it's such a strange experience because it's almost like you're having to learn a lot about this person that's so old and has experienced so much, but you've just come into their life, but you're actually related. It's such a weird concept. And actually there's another sibling that none of us have really had much contact with, and we'd love to get in contact with her, but unfortunately for different reasons that just hasn't happened. So none of us have ever met her. I don't think I've actually ever met her in my life. I'm pretty sure she was born after most of us have been taken into care and things like that. So it's really difficult knowing that, one, I've got parents out there that really I don't know, but also I've got a sibling out there that I don't know, and it's so difficult because you want to talk to them, but if either they don't want to or their parents don't want you to, as in their adoptive parents, then there's not really much you can do about that. So, I try to not let it affect me in life, and I think I probably got the best deal out of it. And I know obviously being adopted, I think being foster, being through the whole process, it's not really the best deal, but in terms of things other people have gone through, certainly in my family and other families, I think I came out pretty well with it. But I think the whole experience, it does sit with you. It's a strange one to think about and really discuss. As you can probably tell in this video, I'm a bit kind of all over the place with it. My head's a bit all over the place with it, as well as kind of where I want to go with it and what I want to do. Do I want to contact my parents? Do I not? Do I want to leave it? It's because everyone kind of gives you their version of events, but I think really I need to take that for myself and just decide, should I do something, should I not? And if I do, just do it and see what happens. Don't think what other people have said, because actually, just because something hasn't gone right for someone else does not necessarily mean that's going to go the same way. Of course it may, And I tend not to get my hopes up with things, so I certainly wouldn't in that situation. But it's something I need to explore, I suppose. But it's fascinating reading what we call the life book, because there's a lot of information in it. And I know that we had a lot of contact with my grandparents, and I'd love to try and reignite that, I think, with my grandma, who's still around. Although I think in the letter we call her Grams, which is quite sweet. And it's strange. It's really strange feeling when you tell someone you're adopted, like I said at the start of the video. And there have been times, I think, that it's almost been used as an excuse for behaviour, which I guess is right or wrong, I don't know. It was when I was more of a kid that sometimes it'd be like, oh, you know, he's like this because of this, this and this. But I guess that's in the past now, and it's part of who I am, and I really wanted to share it. But as I say, I'll go back to what I said at the start. I don't understand why people see it as a joke. It's not really a funny thing to say to someone, oh, haha, you're adopted. That's not funny. That's not cool. I'd never make that joke to anyone, certainly not my kids. But hopefully making this video has given you a bit of an insight into the adoption, fostering process. It's complicated. There's a lot of different people that get involved. Even just from reading that, there's so many different people that get involved. Obviously, you've got to go to family court and things like that. And because of how many there were of us, it was kind of decided we'd go off into almost different groups of siblings. But now, as I say, most of us are pretty much in touch anyway. But it is just a shame with, you know, I don't think it's reasonable, but it's a shame that we couldn't have all stayed together. But I think obviously, given the situation, there was no chance we were going to be staying with my birth parents, because obviously they weren't able to properly look after us. And obviously, social services, as far as they're concerned, that obviously we need parents that can look after us properly. And I think we're definitely better off, you know, in the families we're in. I don't doubt that for a second. I think if we had stayed and nothing had ever happened, I don't even know where I'd be today. But, you know, I'm obviously very grateful that they gave birth to me, my mum and my dad, obviously helping with that situation, because I'm in the world and I'm experiencing a lot, and I've got my own child. And, you know, that's incredible. But equally, I'm very grateful that I got adopted, because I know that I've got a better life now. And actually, my adoptive dad isn't around anymore. He passed away, and this was some time ago now. And I've got my other dad, my stepdad, technically, but I just call him Dad because he's my dad and my mum's my mum. I don't go, oh, hi, adoptive mum, she's my mum, and my stepdad, he's my dad. There's no adoptive mum, stepdad, it's just mum and dad. That's how it's been for me. That's what I'm comfortable with, because officially I think they're my parents. Yeah, I've got birth parents, but I think parents, it's easy to say, yeah, I've had a child, but to look after your child is a different thing. And obviously I know I was taken into care and things, but even so, it's very easy just to say you're a parent, but actually being a father, being a mother is really, I think, what makes the difference there. But I do hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope it's come across in a good way and has made some sense. And I seriously would advise just not joking about adoption or fostering, because there are people like me that have been through it, and I don't find it funny at all. I get why people do it, but I don't find it amusing. So if you were maybe watching this and you thought, hey, I'm going to make one of those videos, don't do it. It's not funny. You wouldn't do it for a coming out thing. Don't do it by telling someone you're adopted. It isn't a joke. It's a pretty serious thing, and it affects a lot of people, not just myself, not just my siblings or my parents. It affects such a wide community of people. And yeah, I mean, it's what it is. I'm adopted. I was fostered as well, obviously, as I mentioned. And that's my story. But I say, I do hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe if you're new around here. I do try to make content regularly. And I'll see you guys next time.